I'm here today in front of the Davidson County Archives on this beautiful day to introduce a candidate who is for the people and for you, Miss Catherine Bloom.
Yay!
Thank you. Hello, everybody. My name is Catherine Bloom. I'm an archivist here at the Davidson County Archives, where I have been a public servant for 12 years. I love my job and what it allows me to do for the community. But after careful consideration, I decided it may be time to offer my skills on a broader level by representing the people of Davidson, Wilson, Williamson, Murray, Lewis, and Marshall counties on the national level. You see, my family always had a saying while growing up, Dreži vodu dok maestro udu. This is a Bosnian saying that translates to, you hold water after the plumber goes. Essentially, that means that when a professional does their job, but does it half-heartedly, you are left to clean up the aftermath when it breaks after they leave. I fear that sums up American politics in a nutshell. A lot of career politicians are too focused on getting re-elected and pleasing the corporations that fund their campaigns to actually focus on doing the jobs they were elected to do by the people they represent. I plan on changing that. I am very proud of the upbringing I've had here in Middle Tennessee, and I want to make sure that the hardworking, everyday people are prioritized rather than a select few.
Yeah.
One of the downsides of being a historian is the fact that typically the lives and histories of the wealthy and powerful are the most preserved. But I want to be a voice piece for the everyday people of Middle Tennessee to make sure that we invest in change, not only for today, but for tomorrow and our children's tomorrow. My job as an archivist already has a role in education, but being in office, I'll be able to further invest in our youth by making higher education more affordable and accessible. I will also stand on the front lines of holding large technology companies accountable for their unethical business practices concerning our citizens and their manipulative algorithms that continue to polarize our nation. I'm not here to play extremes or to cater to a specific crowd. I'm here to unite us all as Americans who want a brighter and better future for ourselves and for our families. If you want to make history, you are in no better hands than an archivist who handles history daily. So invest in me so I can invest in we the people of the United States of America.
Are you open to questions?
Oh, of course.
Me first?
You go first, yeah.
So in your video that you had, you said that you were going to put forth and invest into tomorrow, but you never kind of specified what you're putting forth and quite what you're investing in. Could you elaborate?
Yeah, so I think the best way to invest in our tomorrow is actually to invest in our youth. And I think the best way to do that is obviously education. And so I'm hoping to do that by making higher education more accessible and affordable by regulating industries like the loans and those people that are making it so expensive to pay that back. We need to regulate that, make it, there's a big argument at the moment between whether or not you can have student loan forgiveness. I think if we tackle the root of the problem by regulating the industries and saying, hey, you can't have these exorbitant tax rates. You need to lower it down. These are people that are just trying to make ends meet. These are people that want to contribute to our country. We need to tackle that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Just one more question. You had just said that you were going to make healthcare affordable. Can you kind of dive in a little deeper how you would make that affordable? Because you said you didn't want taxes and you're going to tax bigger businesses. How would you make healthcare affordable without taxes?
Affordability, I think the biggest way to do that is actually tackling the root of the problem again by regulating the industries like Big Pharma, by saying, hey, guys, these people are, again, trying to make ends meet. Y'all hiking up these prices are not benefiting anybody except for your pockets. You know, people's lives are on the line. If we lower the cost of things that are being like pushed into healthcare manufacturing, then that will lower the bill overall, and like at the end of the day. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that will make it more affordable for Americans as a whole without going into government money.
Okay, you talk about how AI is unethical and how big corporations are unethical, but what restrictions are you going to place to make them both more ethical?
Yes, so I am so glad that you asked that because there's a big advocate for technology companies such as Tristan Harris, and he has been on the front lines of this for a long time. He used to be the CEO of, I believe, Pinterest, or he also worked with like Facebook, like because they all kind of like interchange, you know. And he's been calling for regulation on the industry side because a lot of these tech industries have been using and selling our personal data to third-party people. And in doing that, that's why we're getting all these like targeted ads and why these algorithms are, it almost seems like they know us more than we know ourselves. And so I think that we should be implementing regulations by saying like, hey, guys, you can't just sell people's data willy-nilly. You need to allow them to decide if they want to sell that and be a part of that. And they need to make that more transparent on the social media sites end, if that makes sense. Because I know recently Meta and Instagram have been using all of our posts and putting them into, like feeding it into their AI. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. And the thing is that whenever I tried to opt out of it, they rejected my opt-out request because we live in America, because we do not hold them accountable. So by saying respect people, like desires to be part of this business transaction, you know, I think that would be a step forward in that direction. Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned in your campaign video that you had a background in historical studies. How do you feel that this background is giving you insight into modern developments in AI, and how do you think that will help you in your fight against AI?
I will say that I think history is just a good fundamental thing to have in the first place because I know it is mentioned in the Bible where it says that there's nothing new under the sun. And I think that's almost true for history, that a lot of times we as humans do repeat ourselves. And I think the idea of AI is similar. It's almost like, you know, we're chasing after something because we're thinking, oh, that's going to be easier, that's going to be more beneficial because we can just type in a couple words and it will give us like art, or it will give us like whatever we're asking for without us putting in years of hard work to train up a certain talent. But the thing is that we're actually cheating ourselves whenever we do that, because a lot of people, you're putting people out of jobs in these creative fields whenever, you know, it takes a lot of environmental costs to run AI, and so you're actually just reallocating the jobs. Does that make sense? And so instead of allowing for more creative opportunities for people to pursue and invest in for themselves and for the society as a whole, it's actually just leading to people going and mining more materials or hurting our environment to create these resources to run AI. So we're just reallocating where the job markets are. And I think that's something that has been seen in history time and time again, and it's targeting specific people, like everyday people like you and I, because we can't necessarily say, oh, they're starting to mine in my backyard, I want to move but I can't afford to. So, you know, where the jobs start to change, the job markets around us start to change, we're going to be impacted by that. And that's something that has been consistent throughout history. Does that make sense?
Okay, so relating to your AI taking over like the workforce and stuff like that, do you think there's a way that we could work with AI instead of like them replacing us? What do you think about that?
Yes, I think that AI is not necessarily bad. Just like a kitchen knife is not necessarily bad. But the thing is that there needs to be regulations because of the environmental impact, but also because of how it is hurting other industries as a whole. So I think that you can still use AI for good things. Like I have a friend that uses ChatGPT to help them translate stuff because they are an international student and they're trying to, you know what I mean? So like it still can be beneficial. It's just that it needs to be regulated on how it's used, especially in like bigger industries where it's like advertisement or stuff like that. Does that make sense?
AI has become Jesus. AI has become sort of ingrained in our culture, and it has grown substantially over the last few years, and doesn't really show any signs of stopping. How do you plan on stopping said growth?
Well, I don't think it's necessarily stopping the growth, but redirecting and focusing the growth to make sure that it's not it's not having more unintended consequences. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So you just said you're regulating AI. Constitutionally you can't stop anyone from using AI, but how would you regulate it?
Yes. So I don't know if you are familiar with like the European Union, but they have been starting to implement things where you can kind of regulate like what all you produce. So like for instance, we already have this to some degree, how like social media will tell you, hey, this was made by AI, this was generated by AI. I think that we should have that on a larger scale, but also we can say if you are a food business, you cannot use AI generated photos of food to advertise your business. You know, it has to be real authentic food so it does not deceive consumers. So I think stuff like that where we're holding larger corporations accountable for the stuff that they are producing and putting out, I think that that is a good way to start because I feel like the most dangerous thing about AI at the moment is what larger industries are using it for rather than the everyday people.
So basically what you're saying is kind of how Sports Illustrated got in trouble for using AI because they AI generated an entire article.
Yes.
So you're just kind of saying, don't take advantage of AI?
It's not don't take advantage of AI because, if it's a tool, you should take advantage of the tool. But I do think that we should, as a society, make sure that we're not just, because AI just regurgitates the information that's already put in there. And what benefit does that have to our society whenever you're just summarizing and averaging out what everybody else is saying? Especially when that takes away job opportunities from people that do have a voice and something that they want to speak on. Does that make sense?
Anybody from any of the other reporting teams have questions for this candidate? It can be from the video, it could also be from the release.
So you said that you wanted to promote the youth and making sure that they're taken care of and that being a part of looking towards the future. How do you feel about public school, private school vouchers? Like allocating private or public funding to sending kids to private schools?
That's a good question. I grew up in the public schools because my family immigrated here, so we did not necessarily really invest in private schools. So that's kind of something I'm not really too familiar with because I'm not familiar with private school culture. But I do believe that parents do want to send their kids to places that might reinforce their values and stuff like that. And if that's the case, then it's an interesting thing because it's our taxpayer dollars that are going into this private institution. So I do think that's a bit questionable because, all of our money should not be going just towards, I guess, one individual person that is trying to get a private education. But at the same, I don't know, I'm not too sure, quite frankly. I'm sorry.
We have time for one more question.
I'll ask a question really quickly. I just wanted to know, how do you feel that your status as an independent will either help or harm your campaign? Because obviously it's harder to run as an independent.
I do fear that a lot of people, and my voice might get a little washed away, but at the same time, I think Tennessee is looking forward to somebody that will not just lean into extremism, but will try to stand to unite us all, because at the end of the day, we all just want what's best for us and our families, and I'll try to do that by trying to play whatever is best for Tennessee. And I think as an independent, that allows other people to see that that's what my goal is and what I'm trying to do, and I hope that people will see that transparency from me.